How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to episode 25, I think. Not too sure. I want to keep talking bollocks at the beginning to pretend I know what number we're on. But either way, we've made another show. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. I'm really sorry about last week. And to be honest, I think I've been so busy, I can't even remember why we didn't make it last week. It's just been a complete blur. But here we are. We have with us this week Alex, aka Waifu Lover.
Waifu enjoyer.
Well, oh, he's the enjoyer. Sorry, is there a lover?
Enjoyer.
I'm sure someone said they loved it.
Unbelievable. An appreciator. Yeah.
I think Bradley's a bit of a waifu person, isn't you?
Yeah, I'm offended by you saying waifu incorrectly, but it's okay.
Okay, waifu. I do apologize. I've never even bothered saying that word before, so it's the first time for me.
It's now in your brain like a virus. You're doomed now for saying
What is it? What is that?
Yeah, it's like
in term of endearment. A term of endearment. Yeah.
Is it like sexy women or something?
Well, it's generally if you're watching an anime, you might have a best girl. I don't know. Brad, I don't know if you can explain this.
Yeah, I have a series of videos on my YouTube channel called Waifu Review. Just watch those. It might clue you in. They're 20 seconds long.
Do you recognize this cut, Brad? Do you know what game it's from?
Yeah, I recognize it.
That's what started you off, man.
I know.
From one of those games.
It's a very fun meme in my Discord. They remind me every day. They always ask me when the next Job Simulator video is coming out because they know it gives me great pain and suffering.
So
when is it coming out? Next week?
Yeah, you should do one, man, just for bands.
Yeah.
When Deckard comes out,
what's
maybe.
wrong with Job Sim, dude? Come on, that's good
Yeah.
stuff. I heard Job.
Is that a
Simulator on
rhetorical
Deckard,
question,
let's go.
Skiva? What's wrong with Job Sim? Okay.
Damn, bro.
You guys are crazy. It's a little kiddie, but it's fun.
There's
Fantastic.
nothing wrong with it. It's just you get tired of Look, that was the dark days for my channel where my clientele of viewers was probably still in diapers. So I'm glad I'm way past that.
They might have aged with you, though. You don't know.
They did actually. Some of them did age with me. Actually, in fact, some of the people who I talked to people who actually work in the VR industry now because they watched those videos on my channel early on.
And now they might love the waifu.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think you're a PC VR enthusiast without having some amount of waifu enjoying.
What? Oh, great. Right, I'll have to start Googling. Okay, so let's get some introductions out of the way. First of all, we've got waifu. Is it waifu?
Just Alex. It's all right. It's Alex.
It's Alex.
I didn't think I'd be on like a YouTube podcast when I made that name, so it's all good.
That's fine, man. It's quite funny. Some of the gamer tags people have. Like one of my mates, he named himself. His gamer ID is Chrissy Baby Boy, and now he's nearly 40. So that's a bit weird. But yeah, man, you are from Team PrayDog. Thank you for joining us. Talk us through what you do and what you've been doing, please, quickly. That's okay.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I'm just like a VR gamer. So
aren't we all, bro?
Yeah. So I was covering a lot of like PSP VR stuff, just posting like videos in the Discord, helping people get stuff set up. And I was brought onto the project back in February to help test. I think because I've got a massive PC, but I also helped someone get Monster Hunter portable third running in multiplayer, and he was like, "Oh, this guy's great. He'll know what to do." Shout out to Lance if he's watching. But yeah, I came in and I saw. Well, my background is I work in fraud analytics, so I'm kind of like an analytical kind of guy. And we'd been testing PSP VR a lot with Lubos before, so I'd seen what we kind of did there, and then I saw, okay, I want to bring that over and kind of crank it up to 11. So yeah, I kind of came up with like a testing card thing, a little format, and I said, well, we're just going to go through as many games as we can, because it was quite early then, so we really just wanted to make sure that as many builds of Unreal Engine were supported. And developers do some crazy stuff, man. So my main goal was to find some crazy developers. I was going Chinese games, student projects, single dev projects, big AAAs, multiplayer games, all different kind of genres, and trying to get a good mix, because we were finding problems left and right. just with the general kind of how do I play this game? What features do we need? Do we need to decouple the picture of the camera? Do I need to move the camera? Do I need to move that quickly and have a quick way of switching it? Like we'll play an RTS game and I'm like, oh, I need the mouse to be always visible. So we have like a shortcut for that. So it's mainly just been getting that base for like the last year of the basic features. And then I was actually looking at the date, the 21st of November, we started going into Crazy Town with features with this new object hook stuff.
That was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I was showing you back on Saturday, so I kind of really wanted to share it. We're all quite a secretive bunch because I know this whole project has caused like a giant stir in the VR community. Everyone just wants it, right? And you do see like quite the glamorous videos we put out, but you don't see me kind of like melting my PC, nearly getting Steam VAC banned from things like the software tripping Windows Defender and like resetting my PC. But it's at a point where I'm really proud of the work the guys have done, PrayDog and everyone who's contributed. So I don't know if the context behind how the project started, if I should go into that. I mean, I could talk for probably literally hours on this whole thing. But GT, how did you find Saturday?
I thought it was. I mean, just to go into it quickly, what I thought it was going to be like. I thought it was going to be a bit like a normal Luke Ross kind of mod. You know, I kind of expected that. And in some ways, it is kind of that, isn't it? But it happens in minutes. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You can watch it. You can watch a game go from a flat screen that works with a D-pad to then being in VR and then having 6-off controls. That's the bit that changes everything, you know? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're down to seconds now. So PrayDog and the guys were kind of racing a bit to make .dll files for the back end for the speed of the hooking, and I'm kind of the guinea pig guy, so they were just sending me these back end files and trying to get the hook speed. But we generally, even with the game's got de novo, you can get you click inject, you put your headset on, you're waiting there maybe like 10 seconds at most, kind of 40 at the very end, like far end, for something that has like high end de novo like Gotham Knights. But yeah, I mean, I'm in Lies of P and I've been running this in max settings in VR the whole time we've been on this call. I could put my headset on now and show some stuff if you wanted. I'm going to take my glasses off.
I mean, what I was going to... Hold on, he's gone out of his headphones now. Thanks all for watching, everyone. How you doing? he's got in there now.
Yeah, I'm in there. I can't see you, so...
So the only thing is, man, I haven't got you on a full screen.
Oh, I'm not on full screen. I'm going to come out. I'm going to come out.
Why are you coming out? I don't know what happened.
But yeah, it's quick. Yeah, I don't know. Questions. It's difficult to know where to start with this.
I mean, I'll tell you the two comments I've had before, and I haven't actually introduced everyone else yet. But the two comments I got basically were, this guy's using a 4090. That's why it's working so well. So
yeah, definitely for sure. And I think people will have to have new expectations of performance. So things like Octopath Traveler, Astroneer, some of like the fighting games like Guilty Gear, you're going to be fine. Like one of the guys, Jay, on our team, he has a 3060 laptop and he was playing Returnal with us when it launched on Steam. But I mean, of course, he's got low settings. He's space warping. He's upscaling with virtual desktop. But it depends on the game. Like Half-Life Alyx is a demanding game, right? I mean, you're not going to go into that with a 2060. So if you're going to play a AAA high-end game, you're going to need a decent rig. But if there's lots of Unreal Engine games that are really easy to run, that are really simple, and there's thousands of them, hundreds of them literally, that people could play. So it's not like this is going to come out and people are going to find it difficult for things to play. I think, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so let me get some more introductions out of the way quickly. We are also joined by Skeever from Between Realities. How you doing, dude?
What's up, man? How's it going, everyone? Stoked to be back. Yeah, I missed last week as well, just like we all did. I was in the Netherlands in Rotterdam for VR days and the VR awards, which was super fun.
That looks
And,
amazing. That looks really amazing.
yeah, it was a good time, man. It was a good time, and you know, like who doesn't want to go to Amsterdam? It's amazing place. So yeah, it was rad. Quick shout out to Scott of Combat Waffle dropping $100 super chat here in chat saying that
Oh,
the
what?
street's full of legends. Heck yeah, man.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
ever
much.
so much, dude.
And
Bless him.
$2 from Michael Grant as well. Appreciate you. But yeah, this is great. I'm glad to be here. I'm so stoked for this Unreal Injector. So
Yeah.
show.
Michael says this episode's going to be so good. We don't need Don.
That's
Right,
true.
Yeah.
We don't
Speak
need
for yourself, bro.
Don
Speak
gone.
for yourself.
Don. we all need a little bit of Don. Next up, we have got Wes and Roots from Virtual Strangers, which are currently on holiday, which is awful for me personally because I listen to their show every Monday. How you doing, boys?
Pretty good, man. But fret not. I think we're going to try to do a show this week sometime if we can pull it off. It's time for us to announce nominees. So I think we're going to try to get out there and do that sometime this week. But good, man. I'm glad to be back on the horse. Bit of a rough week last week, so I'm happy to kind of get back into a little bit of a routine this week. So good.
Nice, dude. Nice. And last but definitely not least is sadly it's Bradley. How are you doing, sir?
Good.
Excellent. Are you excited about Steam Link? What did you think of
it's
it?
all
What
right.
did you think of it? What did you think of it? Talk to me about this whole thing, because obviously Steam is kind of your thing at the moment. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the most interesting thing about it is how they're kind of doing it from a technical level. They're doing it very differently than the other streaming apps, from what I understand. I don't know if you want me to go into detail, but maybe there's nerds that want me to go. So,
I love it when you go into detail, man. It literally 80% of what you say goes over my head anyway. So don't ask
yeah,
permission.
okay, it's probably gonna go over your head again here because
Yeah,
it's
it'll
even
go
like
into mine.
it's even
Let's
I'm
go.
not good at networking understanding, but I'm still very fascinated by how they're doing it. So they're actually like doing one basically one widescreen stream, but they're like sending double the FPS to your headset. So if you're set at like 120 hertz, they're doing like one stream at 240 hertz and sending that to your headset to decode and like cut out each eye at half the frame rate, which is a really wild way of doing it. Not sure why they're doing it because like other like for example, I think the Airlink does like 5 split encoding streams and like matches them together. And Virtual Desktop, I believe, uses 2 streams. But for some reason, Valve, to ensure that they get the lowest latency and like the less, that's their focus for sure. Is like they want the lowest latency for their Wi-Fi. They're really prioritizing that for probably comfort reasons.
I would definitely agree with that because, like, out of using Virtual Desktop and Airlink, I'm even though admittedly the video quality is less, I'd even say things like even color saturation and stuff like it's not as vivid and it's not quite as sharp, but I don't get any frame drops. I don't get any issues, and it's and it just it's really clever in that way.
Yeah, and it's obviously like meant to be very easy to just get people right in there. It's I don't know, it's a really interesting thing. The other interesting thing about it is they're doing foveation with the encoding, which is pretty cool. I think ALVR was doing that. Is the only one I'm aware of that was actually. So the way it works is it's not foveated rendering where it's like less or better performance on your GPU. It foveates the encoding, so when it's sent over Wi-Fi, it's less likely to have issues. Like it makes the things on the edges of your screen blurry based on just the actual encoding and like the actual data transfer rather than the actual rendering. But if you have a Quest Pro, they're doing eye tracked foveation, which is pretty neat because that actually, because if you're on Quest 3, for example, that's actually one of the foveation feels pretty severe on like Quest 3, I would say, because you can kind of see if you're looking at a desktop where the blurriness starts and you kind of lose that benefit of that edge-to-edge clarity you get with Quest 3. But on Quest Pro, you can at least move your eyes a little bit, and it'll actually move that foveation the way you'd want it. So really cool that they actually prioritize that feature. I noticed people were saying that after Steam Link launched, and like basically the Quest Pro used market shot up $200 more on average in the United States, at least, which is pretty interesting because they didn't only add that feature. They added the features where they can automatically transmit your eye tracking and face tracking data over OSC directly to VR chat, for example.
I saw that,
So
man.
it's super easy for people to just like, if they have a supported avatar, to just do PC VR eye and face tracking, and probably the most used application on PC VR by a far amount. So yeah, Valve is the one that's going to make the Quest Pro more used by people than Meta, which is funny to me.
Do you
It's funny.
think?
Sorry.
Do you think that that this is all to test for the Deckard? Because
Yep.
I feel like they don't. You know, I mean, I'm sure they care a little bit about the Quest because it may be selling some VR games and getting people to use Steam VR more. But I feel like this is kind of like a little beta to be like to start this stuff going, work out some problems before their flagship headset comes out.
I do feel that way because you're kind of seeing like this ramp up, I feel, from Valve, because it was like SteamVR 2.0, right? That launched in like pretty messy state. And like they've been like super reading the forums and stuff and like fixing all the bugs and like improving it. And then they launched this thing out of nowhere that's all about improving wireless connection to different headsets and stuff. So I do think there's a lot of like, hey, let's use these millions of headsets as beta testers for our own stuff sort of thing going on here. But also I think it's also kind of cool because the thing I really believe and hope the most from them kind of going this path is, I'm not a guy who wants Valve's next hardware to be a $500 or $300 piece of hardware. I want them to kind of shoot for the stars. And by kind of releasing Steam Link for Quest, they don't really have to compete on that hardware level, because honestly, they'd probably lose anyway if they competed with Meta, who has like billions of dollars to keep subsidizing things. So I think this kind of gives them a little more playing room. Like, hey, we still support the subsidized hardware with our own application now for wireless streaming to a PC, and let's do our own thing the way we want to do stuff anyway.
I mean,
So
I think it's pretty wild that the app is actually officially on the store. But for some reason, that really did that was out of everything. The bit that I was like, wow, I didn't expect that.
it makes me hope that we'll see a Steam Link on the Apple Vision Pro, because that would be freaking wild. Could you
That
imagine?
would be.
Freaking insanity. But there kind of is, because Steam Link is on the iPhone, Steam Link's now on the Meta Quest, and they both have the important functionality distinction where you can't actually access the store or the community stuff much from within the headset, and also on your desktop. Like if you're connected to your iPhone on Steam Link, or even your Quest 3 on Steam Link, even your desktop UI on Steam, you just can't click those buttons until you disconnect. So there is kind of a precedent there that it's not as easy to just buy stuff directly when you plug in, but once you disconnect, that platform's available again. So
It is awesome, man. Wireless VR is really special. The first time I experienced like PC VR via Oculus Link was amazing on Quest, and the first time you experience PC VR wireless is just as amazing. So yeah, that's so cool, dude.
So glad they prioritized 10-bit encoding over pushing like higher megabit transfers for non 10-bit, because I really think that's important. I think color fidelity over everything is like what really gets people kind of immersed. And I think I think people would be shocked if you did like A and B testing of 8-bit encoding and 10-bit encoding, how much people notice stuff. But yeah.
Good stuff. You gave it the thumbs up, guys, for the listeners. Yeah. So that's a good thing. So yeah, if anyone has got any questions for Alex, please let us know from the PrayDog team, and we will try and do our best to answer you.
I do have a question for Brad though. Do you think we're going to get Space Warp with Steam Link? Because that was my main thing with testing UEVR with Steam Link, is some of these really big games, you really do kind of rely on that Space Warp and the kind of upscaling it just to get something smooth. So
I actually, so people are asking for a lot of features right now, and I'm kind of like watching the Steam forums and like mostly the replies that they're getting. And like there's people asking for features like hand tracking only instead of like controllers and stuff. And it seems like Valve's replies to a lot of these things are like, yeah, we can't really do that right now. And they probably could, honestly. Like I think if they really cared enough, they probably could. But I think they're just gonna make it. Okay, here's my conspiracy theory. I think they're gonna make it mostly just like usable, good, accessible, but very basic. And then and they'll keep all like the special stuff for whatever hardware they release as like a defining thing, which is kind of what happens with the Steam Deck, right? Like you have big picture mode you can activate big picture mode on any desktop with Steam or whatever, but there's a lot of features that are only on Steam Deck compared to just the regular desktop big picture mode. I think you're gonna see a lot of that segmentation, in my opinion. So, because they are trying to compete, right, with their own. They gotta differentiate themselves somehow, and virtual desktop is still there. So,
I mean, what's been awesome for me, because I'm a Steam Deck owner as well, and just got the new OLED. It's great, and I've seen like the evolution of that software, and I'm really hoping Steam Link does the same. But playing a game in VR, like I'll play Octopath for a bit, and then go on the toilet with my Steam Deck and progress a bit with the Steam Deck, and then go load my save back up in VR. Might do a bit of first person, might walk around a bit. And I wonder if Val was watching this, because I did notice in one of the Steam VR updates, they referred to a flat to VR mod by its name, which was interesting. We were all kind of surprised. PrayDog was like, "What is there a problem? Is there a problem? What we've done?" So
I'm telling you all, like, if you ever have an issue with Steam VR right now, this is literally the time to complain loudly, because there's never been a better time to do that, because Valve are actually like listening and fixing stuff like daily. It's kind of
I did email Gabe, and I emailed Tim, and I got an email back from Tim, because I basically just invited him to Saturday, and I was like, no one's going to respond, and he was the first person to respond to the invite, and he was like, he had loads of questions about control options, shooters, movement shooters, and like motion sickness stuff. I sent him like a data dump of our spreadsheet and videos, and he was like, "Oh, I'll dig in and get back to you." Kind of offered him like, "Oh, we could have a group chat or something with the team." So yeah, he's watching. He's liked the Fortnite tweet ages ago back in summer. So I think that was the main kind of bit of stress, is Tim okay with it? But I think Tim's cool.
That's crazy. So just that, basically Saturday just gone, Alex invited a number of us, I guess kind of local. Didn't feel very local for me. It took me 5 hours to get home, but went hands on with the UEVR, and walked away massively impressed. And before we get into the questions, I want to bring Roots in on this, and on Wes as well, because they are big on VR mods. Like, they really do enjoy their VR mods. So why are you guys looking forward to this? Like, why do you want to get your hands on this?
I want to get on. I want like the depth of these AAA games. Like I don't even want to change to 6-off. I know some of these, and I will if some of these games are like set up to do 6-off. I don't even care about that. I just want to be in the world. My best experiences in VR has been Uncharted 4, Red Dead 2, GTA 5. These are all Luke Ross mods. But something tells me this mod's going to blow me away way more. I mean, I just, like, everything I forgot, didn't get the Quest 3 so I could get a 4090 and a 14900K for this mod. So when it comes out,
good choice.
I'm ready to fucking jump in, and I don't want to, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to turn everything down. I know that there's still going to be some kind of things you have to limit, but like, I have 24 gigabytes of VRAM. I don't want that to be my limitation, and that we're running into that in VR games in general. 8 gigs is not enough typically for a lot of games. So
I think the community expectation on performance has been set a lot by Luke Ross mods like Cyberpunk, Red Dead. I know people have been playing.
Tough. They're tough to run.
They're tough, yeah, even for me. But this, I mean, you'll be surprised when you're running in native stereo. And I was just looking at the spreadsheet. I mean, most most things are running in native stereo. It's way better than you'd expect. Yeah,
I can't wait for them to see the performance like I did. Like, yeah,
is the 3D better? So that's the one thing that Luke Ross's mods I don't like about that. Even the new AER 2.0, it's okay. I always end up turning it off. I don't like the artifacts around the people. It ends up looking weird. And when I turn it off, it's still two different displays. It's still 3D. It may not pop as well, but it's so clear and it runs so much better. And so like that's my thing is how good does this 3D work? Because I feel like Luke Ross still has some work to do on his way he does it.
So we're kind of cheating. We're just kind of turning it on like you would in Unreal Engine for the devs. That would be great if the developer reaction has been one of the best things. So I've been trying a bunch of like new games, demos, play tests, and this guy, I think a single dev, he built a fish tank simulation game, and it was on the Steam Next Fest. It was great. You just manage fish and put plants, and I showed it to him, and he was like,
"Is this
oh wow,
the game that looks really beautiful?"
That's Abzu. That's Abzu.
Oh, okay. Right.
It's also good.
Yeah.
But like he said, well, I'm just launching my game, but I mean, now I'm gonna have to start researching about mixed reality. Like, you've just showed me that this would be a perfect mixed reality game, and that's the thing. I really want to see devs use this, put their game into VR very quickly, and see the potential. I'm going to open my project file, and fix a few of those things, add a weapon wheel, do whatever, and then release it themselves. Because I mean, we had the Talos Principle two guys asking to kind of join, have a test, because they were kind of evaluating the prospect of a VR port of their game.
How would that work? I mean, okay, so what we're talking about now is right. So as I said at the beginning of the show, I watched you basically turn a flat game into a VR game very quickly, like very quickly. How does that work for developers? How are they going to use this for someone to buy their game as a VR version? How would that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, the easiest thing, you just buy the flat version, and because it'll be free, open source. I mean, anyone could take that and change it in any way. And we had like some of the developers for like Demonologist, a horror game, were like, oh yeah, we don't have a VR version yet, but this guy's got this mod that's coming out. Just use that if you want to use it. We don't know it's safe, but you could use it. But yeah, you just open the program, click the game, click inject, put your headset on. And
that's what I mean. Wouldn't they want some sort of control still a little bit to make sure?
I think so.
That people are playing the game how they want them to play it. So, for example,
I think that's a scary thing. We're going to be doing it in a completely different way they didn't even think of, and I think that is the terrifying thing for developers. Because we're seeing behind the curtain. I open a main menu and I turn around and I see all the stuff they've left there. So yeah, it's but amazingly, most of the time, the stuff they have left there looks gorgeous. Like some of the main menus, I'm thinking, wow, you guys need to see this. Like you're missing out. I mean, I'd say 90% of the games I've played this way have been the definitive way. I would say, get rid of that HD remaster rubbish. Like this is the way to play these games. You haven't experienced them until you've played them this way.
That's so cool, man. It's so cool. I'm on the verge of getting goosebumps when you said that. I'm like, oh. So we had some questions. Talk to us about what. So a lot of people are going to ask about particular games.
Yep.
Let's explain how it works, what engines it uses, like the versions of Unreal that it will support. And then what you guys can do at home is basically check if the game you want to play could be supported.
Yeah. So the spreadsheet is great. So have a look at that. Abzu, which we talked about earlier, is a good kind of anchor point because that's one of the earliest popular games in like the gaming culture of people will know about. And that came out in 2016. So everything on from that was released after that or around the same year is fine. Most developers will use the latest version of Unreal as it comes. The majority of games are running on 4.27, which has kind of the most stable features. PrayDog has had to adjust things when we've had UE 5.1, 5.2 come out, 5.3. There was only a few little issues with 5.2. It was quite amazing that suddenly we had a bunch of 5.3 games to test on the Steam store and it was fine. there was only some issues with like Lumina Nanite in 5.2, but because they fixed that in 5.3, some of these like asset flip horror games that just immediately get thrown out on Steam with 5.3, they were running great. So rest assured, I think the only confusion will come is people won't know what Unreal Engine version it is, because Steam doesn't show that on the page. Some
You can
games
find
like,
that out though. You can find it
oh
out pretty
yeah,
easily.
but
Like
it's difficult for I'd say the average gamer to find the Unreal Engine version or know what the engine version is at all. I mean, some popular games like Sea of Thieves, Days Gone, Gears of War have such custom versions of Unreal Engine that they're not really Unreal Engine anymore. We do have some plans like extreme. We have like a extreme compatibility mode that might be able to fix those, but people do have to be aware that you do need to make sure it's Unreal Engine. And the UI we have, if you try and inject a non-UE game, it will warn you. Ray Kupata, who is of famed VR modding, Outer Wilds, Firewatch, he's made a tool called RayPow, which actually on the weekend he was looking at kind of starting his own Unity universal VR mod. So he's talking about that. So I'd definitely go over to the Discord and have a read of what he's posted, because it's still very early, like super early, nowhere near like UEVR was back in February when I tried it. It's just some of his work. He's trying to kind of, I think PrayDog has inspired a lot of us, I think, to all just push ourselves a little bit extra. But yeah, this RayPow tool he has, it just shows everything in your Steam library that you own or has installed, and it says whether it's Unreal Engine, Unity, what version it is. You can quickly install it or open it from there. And the idea is maybe we can have like the UEVR mod plug into that, or to help launch it later down the line. But it's amazing just seeing, because this is the power of this software. Like it's a platform. I kind of say, like Narcnon added this snap turning feature probably about a week before we did the play test. And he said, oh, can you test it in some games? And it was amazing how it just propagated itself in everything. Like we were looking at the Ascent, which is a top-down game, and it was just kind of moving the character model in 45-degree angles. It was just working in everything. So when you build on top of UEVR, like we're working on a universal teleport, a really crazy thing where we'll kind of, I don't even know if this is possible, but we're talking about possibly attempting to dynamically go into the game world and pick up objects. So attach them as you touch them, because you saw in the demo we have the overlapper tool, and we grabbed what was in the player's hands, and we're looking at maybe adding dynamically physics onto that. So an example like Lies of P, you could pick up a bench and block bullets and throw it around, because we've been doing that with the player model at the moment. So this is some of the crazy things that come about when we have a closed testing group and development group. We just do these crazy ideas.
I think that's insane that as a modding group you're going to add comfort options.
Oh yeah, comfort. Yeah, that's a massive thing.
That's
so
just crazy.
Turning, yeah.
That's like customer service. It's like
so yeah, that's the biggest thing. So a lot of people, because they'll say you can't play these games, like that Denny guy from Cloudhead Games. You can't play these games. They're going to be motion sickness city. So we've worked really hard. We were even looking at a vignette for turning speed, like Unreal Engine shader to add a kind of vignette and have that as an option as well. You saw from the demo, I added the decoupled pitch, which fixes your view to the horizon. Luke Ross does this as well in some of his mods, like actually no, PrayDog does it in Monster Hunter. I think Luke Ross does it in Elden Ring as well. So you kind of move as an elevator as the third person character instead of a globe, and that kind of really helps with motion sickness. So all these things we kind of trying to think about, because we want people to enjoy the games and just kind of open them up and start playing and customize it how they want. I mean, I know we're all crazy like VR leg fighter pilots, as some would say, but some people aren't, and they'll need some of the training wheels, which is why before the playtest I said we should hide a bunch of the complicated options. So it default launches in a basic mode where you just inject, has camera input, some of the accessibility options, and then if people want, they can tick that advanced button and start going absolutely crazy if they choose to. But then there's things in here there like a inbuilt Unreal console with like a auto fill and explains what the fields are. We pull up various variables in Unreal Engine that are useful, like turning off motion blur, depth of field, without going in, saving in the ini file. Because I don't. You've played a lot of VR mods. There's a lot of tinkering, right, with files, going into folders, dropping and saving things. The great thing about this, it's just gamepad UI. You can use it with all kind of controllers, your touch controllers. So to be able to like pull that up and just have a simple UI with sliders. I even forget about some of the great things we've added from the test. So we found some games don't have DLSS, right? They don't have FSR, and you want a bit of extra performance. And Epic has a temporal upscaler built within Unreal Engine. And we were looking at the documentation on Epic's website, and we're like, well, we could just add this into the UI. So we do. You can just turn temporal upscaling on, choose the upscaling method, and set a screen percentage. And I did some tests. My channel is like very little views, but because I post so much stuff there. But we did some tests, and like 80% screen percentage gives you like 20% extra overhead, and I can barely discern the difference. So we would just chuck that in the UI. We got black level adjustments, gamma adjustments. Even last week, I was suggesting we can add the film grain because there's a couple of dozen games you'd want to kind of disable that without fiddling in.
I would love to do. I hate film grain personally. I'm never a fan of it.
Is there any kind of plan to have like a simple mode versus advanced mode? Because that's one of the things that really sticks out to me as kind of a layman looking at the UI. As the versions go on, like more and more and more options get added in, and I know what a handful of them do, but the vast majority of them, I don't really know how they work, and I probably would never use them anyway. So do you think that there will eventually be some kind of a toggle that kind of simplifies it?
So I was just talking about that. We added that like last week. So it defaults into basic mode, and you have to turn on advanced mode to see what we deem complicated settings. So everything basic is stuff like you can change your resolution, your world scale, you can change camera. So this was something I kind of brought over from the PSP project. I was bugging PrayDog. Lubos added this great feature where if you hold the right trigger and just move sticks, you can just fly around and find a new position. So he added that in, and you can save free camera presets once you found a good position, and it saves stuff like your world scale. So you can go from like a far away, close up, and very quickly change it with just a gamepad face button. But yeah, I would consider those all like basic features. I do think watching the guys on Saturday, there were some immediate things like our D-pad emulation. Everyone was tripping that up. Chris, you were tripping that up. You were like, "Why can't I walk forward?" And I was like, "You're using the thumb rest."
Yeah. So what he's saying is on the right touchpad, there's obviously a sensor here, and if you put your thumb here, it activates a D-pad. And without knowing it, I must constantly just leave my thumb when I play games on this part of the control pad. So yeah, I soon tried to get out of it, but it did happen a few times.
Yeah, so even from that, we were thinking, well, maybe we leave that off as a default, the D-pad emulation. And when you figure out, I want to use the D-pad, you can turn it back on. And that's the great thing about OpenXR, OpenVR. We support both. OpenXR brings that capacitive thumb rest input in, so we can use it. SteamVR we don't, but we're planning to use both the grips held at once and then a stick as an extra option. And it's all about options like input. You've got gamepad, you've got head aiming, you've got the freed off, which you just use one hand, but we do have a two-handed and left and right where you can use a pivot. I didn't show you that because you guys were just way too excited to to get to anything more. But how did you find that freed off? Because when I say the word freed off, a lot of the community panics. But I think it's quite a cool input method.
Yeah. So I played for the video. RoboCop was freed off, I believe.
Yes.
And I think so was Returnal.
Yes. Yep.
That was freed off, which actually felt a bit different to RoboCop because I think you described it right. It felt like I was using a Wiimote and using the character. But no, yeah. So it doesn't feel as free to like move your arms around and stuff.
Yeah.
But one difference I noticed straight away is I could play the game, and it looked like a VR game, and I could play it. And that's one of the things I kind of said to you at that time was when I used Luke Ross's stuff. And this is never any disrespect to him. In fact, he's probably added so much hype for this even coming to being. You know, like he's proven that there's such an interest in VR modding. Sometimes when, like, for example, in Cyberpunk, if I aim down the sights of the gun, it just flickers all over the place or it doesn't look right. This just looked and played really well. Like, I reckon I could play the whole of RoboCop in VR in 3DoF. And yeah, I think it was Ill Will was the game that you showed me how to go from 3DoF to 6DoF. And that's at the end of the video. So unfortunately, I don't know if many people have watched all the way to the end, but that is probably the most mind-blowing bit, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, with that, yeah. Sorry, my SD card ran out. I was getting excited to manage it. But yeah, with Ill Will, it's just a small indie game, Unreal Engine, just like a little kind of art project boomer shooter thing. But we've got a few ways of doing this 6DoF. In the early days, you would have to literally type in like skeletal mesh first person, and you can't use delete, so it was super difficult to use. So we brought all the objects that have the things you'd want to attach, like the player camera, into some easy drop downs, and it pulls them straight away. It's the acknowledged pawn, which is like Unreal Engine terminology. So maybe we might have to kind of rename some of those, or we just keep them because people could Google them. But once you open that, you can attach your camera to any mesh to make it first person. And at the same time, anything that's attached to that player character, like arms, head, weapons, you can then go in and pick. I didn't show GT and the other guys this, but you can click a button which is spawn overlapper, and it spawns like a little red ball, and you can hover it over meshes and it will give you the name of them, and it puts them up at the top of the menu if you want to attach.
Dude. That is great. Yeah,
because sometimes you might not know what can be attached. So like in Aliens Fireteam, the weapons were quite a few levels deep under the character. So once I did the overlap, I was like, oh, that's called gun core mesh, whatever. So then I could find it in the option. But from there, you can just attach everything you've overlapped as well, which can be a bit crazy, because if you overlap something that does character movement, you can suddenly yeet yourself out the map. So this is why we put it in the advanced settings, because especially games with like anti-cheat or anti-tamper. So today I've been playing pinball games, because like train games, pinball enthusiasts are pretty intense at asking me to test stuff. And with that, if we try to go into object hook, because it's a free-to-play game, it'll crash the game. That's actually a good point as well to talk about anti-cheat, because the level of cheating you could accomplish if you're really thinking about it, you could cheat in a lot of games. But I don't think this really will. If someone wants to cheat in an Unreal Engine game, I think there's enough tools out there to do that. But yes, things like Chivalry or anything with easy anti-cheat, you won't even be able to inject. You can, of course, kind of adjust the easy anti-cheat to play offline.
Yeah.
And we've played on some private servers. So we created a private server for Starship Troopers. Some of the guys have tested squad private servers. So I think these kind of competitive games will live on like VR only servers to try and kind of remove that advantage of being able to stick your head through a wall.
Is there any way to, let's say you go in and you spend some time and you get a game running really, really well. Can you export that profile and share a file online where someone else can just grab it, pull it in, then the game runs?
Yeah, super easy. And we've done that as well. So Hunter A, the Australian guy that does a lot of testing with me, he's a really cool guy. He'll be sat in his Subaru and he'll be playing some stuff on his laptop, and he'll make some attachments to a game I've never played before. And you can export the entire config, which is a tiny file, like a meg at most. And you can just drop that in, copy and paste it, or you can just take like his object hook attachments, just his config or plugins that people have created. Like PrayDog made a plugin for Severed Steel, which just added 6DoF. He did it in like a day. And again, tiny file, and you can just drop that back in.
And that attaches right to that game specifically. Because like, I envision, people sharing these all the time, because a lot of people that aren't going to understand what a lot of these options are and don't care to, but they want to play these games. So, having a site that has some pre-configured config files, I think would be really, really popular. I know people like Paradise Decay like to, do that in different tools where he shares his config files. So to make it easier on the public.
So like Vorpex, Vorpex put fear in me of trying stuff, and I always wanted to try something that already had a pre-made profile. But after being with Alex the other day, in my video, you can watch me turn Returnal from a third person into a first person. Like, you can see that happen on screen, and it is, and that was the thing about it. I mean, sure, he had to say hold the right trigger and then move the joystick, detach, then reattach. That's pretty much all it was, and I think people will, once they get over the fear of what they're doing, I think actually it being so customizable makes it even better. That's why I liked it a little bit more. But
yeah, I think people will have very specific preferences. But I think the big marquee games will definitely, there'll be so many configs. They'll be like, oh, this does third person, this does first person, but close.
well, that's
I just had a quick.
Sorry.
I did a quick kind of just flash up of some website stuff we're working on, because at the moment we have a Discord, which I think will probably be public on release. It's a channel where we've just made cards of games, so it's kind of like the Discord forum. So each forum thread is an image of a game, and in there is like videos and us saying, oh, this setting is really good, or do this to stop it from crashing, or don't go online with this one. So stuff like that people can look at. But generally, I'm used to just opening games I've never played in VR before, and with the basic features, you can get playing fine. But yeah, if you want to get that extra refinement, the perfection, you see some cool video online of GT playing some Returnal with some really crazy custom six off. There'll be so many people sharing it. I think we've talked about like a GitHub repository or a URL we could probably put in.
You want something where people can vote. That'd be pretty cool. So you can see
that would be good. Yeah,
you can see the most popular one, and then that'd be the one everyone tries first, for example.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens if there's like a industry of people making plugins, like premium plugins on Patreon. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see what the community do with the tool as a whole.
Okay, so we have some more questions. Mr. Back says, really looking forward to the injector mod, but I have a bad feeling you're going to get hit with cease and desists. These big companies are not going to want their IPs messed around with. What do you reckon?
So we've been very careful. The code is only Unreal Engine specific code. There's no mention of any specific game anywhere. So a lot of the problems we have with a game, we could very easily fix by specifically saying for this game, do that and fix it, and it would be perfect. But every single solution to a problem has had to come generically. It has had to have some generic Unreal Engine feature. Now, there's lots of similar tools that Epic sell on their marketplace for Unreal, and there's lots of community projects that are similar that add things like widescreen support or the universal Unreal unlocker that do very basic things with just the Unreal Engine, or like photo mods and things like that. So I think that's where we're generally safe. I mean, we have been careful not to test, of course, like GTA. We don't want to like poke the bear and kind of show that publicly, but yeah, I think as long as Tim is okay with it and we're just amending Unreal Engine code, I mean, people are going to have a problem with Unreal Engine as a whole if they were to complain that the engine has an underlying flaw. But I mean, what are they going to do? They just have to completely port their game off of Unreal Engine to stop it, or add easy anti-cheat as a solution to prevent it.
Interesting. Thank you to Paradise Decay for the £2 donation. He's put, Alex is a legend.
Thanks, PD.
Thank you. And Waleed is now a game cat, I believe. He's put, how would Returnal PSVR 2 port differ from UEVR mod?
So we've played some games that have VR native ports, and there's a flat screen version. And I've tried playing it with UEVR and comparing it to the native port. The main difference, I think, is customization, because you get the developer's vision of what that's like in VR. And some people want to headlock you, or like in Moss, like you have to be static. They force some motion thing on you. But yeah, here I think the sky's the limit. You want to go first person, you do it. You want to add motion controls, you do it. You want to make it tiny, you want to make it huge. Jay attached the cat from Stray to his controller and played a lot of the game like that, just because it was hilarious. So with it just floating around with the cat attached to his hand. So I think the world of imagination is really what excites me about this.
I think that's
it's really
what's
just untapped.
I think it's just crazy because, I mean, for me personally, this is why. I mean, Quest is getting a lot of ports of games or new IPs in general. PSVR 2, a lot of us go there because we want PlayStation IPs, these games in VR. And what you're doing is every game, potentially, from 2016, maybe with Unreal, and that does include some PlayStation games, obviously, like Returnal, games like that, is now playable potentially in VR.
Yeah, it's a great proof of concept, isn't it? I mean, it's going to put pressure as VR becomes a more popular thing and a more mainstream. It's going to put pressure on these bigger studios to do their own versions of these games because, and we've said this a million times, if just some dude could do it and make it easy for everyone in the span of a year, then why wouldn't a multi-million-dollar company be able to do it and sell it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the questions I said to Alex at the time. I was like, you guys, there's probably no money to be made here. But
rock and roll. Yeah, this is punk rock. This is punk rock as hell. I love it. Yeah, it's part of the reason why I put so much time in it, and I think everyone's so passionate. Is it's so cool because it's just we're doing it because we can.
Because it needs to be done.
Needs to be done.
Really, and the developers aren't doing it. And I was saying before the show, we want all these AAA gamers to come into VR, but we're not giving them what they want. They want these games, this level of gaming in VR. That's what they want. They don't want to come into VR and play like what we have, which we love in VR. It's just a different level of gaming. And now this is going to show, like Wes said, that developers that it can be done and that it should be done, that there's money to be made. And this is the future of VR, in my opinion.
So one of my best moments from Saturday actually was I invited some co-workers and they had never played VR before. And one lady in particular, she really loved Little Nightmares. And I was told that she was getting married next year and that she has a Little Nightmares wedding cake planned.
Really?
So I was like, oh God, you need to come to this. We need to put you in Little Nightmares. The reaction that I saw in her after she played that for the first time, that will stay with me for a while. And then I saw her at work today, and I was like, "Oh, how's it going?" And she's like, "Oh, we need a headset." I was like, "Don't worry, I've got an old Quest 2. I'll get you set up." And then she asked me, "Oh, what about Endling and Extinction Forever?" It was like a side-scrolling Fox game. And I was like, yeah, that's on Unreal Engine. It's on my test list. The kind of games that some people want to play in VR. We're with this mindset of like the gaming community, we're all shooters and stuff. But there's a world of people that want farming simulators and want to pet a cat. And
I want a farming simulator.
Yeah, there's so many different genres out there that people are really excited to be in, and they're just not served, I think, on the main platforms at the moment.
Is there any waifu games that need?
There's some very nice ones. Yeah, there's some adult ones as well, which I think work extremely well. It had to be tested for science, of course. Yeah.
I just wanted to bring Bradley back. You know. Bring him back.
Alakazam says, will the injection be enough for people to go out and buy a 4090 PC? I think you were saying at the beginning, you don't need a 4090.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
Yeah.
If you want to play like regular games that you'd play on your Steam Deck, you really don't need that big of a PC. I do think it becomes a selling point for 4090s and 5090s, whereas before you're going to max out 40K, 4K, 120 FPS on a flat screen. And you think, why would I need a 5090? Well, I can see why you need a 5090 now. There's a demand now for this kind of hardware.
That's exactly what I thought when I had my 3080 Ti, which is an amazing card. And then this mod started getting talked about, and everybody said you can't max out your card at 4K or whatever. But that 4090 is actually It's like two 3080 Ti's. Like it's an actual legit. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's a legitimate upgrade. Nobody can deny that. And for something like this, it's a big deal.
I would have loved to have tried Fortnite. I should have asked you about that.
Yeah, you had to set up a private server. Yeah,
Oh.
those are a bit more complicated for a demo because I had installed about 80 games, right? And you guys just kind of like picked at random. I had not prepared at all. You guys were just injecting from default settings. So it was really like uncensored look at the whole thing. So it was interesting and it was great to see you wouldn't shut up about it all day.
It was amazing. I'm just looking through some of the games that are available. Like, wouldn't it be interesting, Wes, if they had a flat version of Firewall Ultra and the VR mod version was better?
That would be funny.
That would be
You have to
funny.
run it on a private server though.
Yeah, that'd still be fun. It'd probably be more players.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was quite funny. Yeah, so yeah, crazy. Like, has anyone got any more questions that you really want answering? Because this is the time. But also you can head to their Discord. You can follow Waifu Enjoyer and all that stuff.
The Discord is the best place. We all live in there. We're constantly answering people's questions. Do read the FAQ. It's not out yet. But we love getting like suggestions for games. Like I just got asked to test this pinball game and I immediately bought it and tested it for them. And I've got a video coming up of PT. Some guy on itch.io has like an emulated version of the PT demo from PS4. And that's Unreal Engine. That is good. That is very good.
I would love that, dude. That scared the shit out of me. And I've
No,
done it a few times in VR, man. But I'd love to actually play. They're all like copied versions, you know.
Yeah.
I would love to get in the original.
Well, the crazy thing about Unreal PT is that it does have a VR version, but for a lot of people, the VR version is broken and you can't finish it. So it'd be interesting to see how kind of the flat version injected into VR kind of performs versus the actual VR version of it.
That's crazy.
So
I
technical
do-
glitch. Oh, sorry.
I
had a
just want
good-
to. I just want to caveat any horror game on that list has been barely tested by me because I can last 10 minutes at most.
Same, dude.
What's a good minimum like spec for people? Like I don't know as far as what you would say.
We thought of this. So I would say a 3080 or better to get the proper real experience, like a really good experience, and where you're not really capped by games so much. Obviously, a brand new AAA game, you're not going to put it on all max ray tracing, but you're going to be able to play it and get a good time.
Yeah, but a 3080, dude, it's
Yeah,
suddenly just dropped a lot of money. Like,
Right.
they're like over here, they're 500 quid now.
Mm.
You can get one for 500 quid, which is
The best thing though is this is the worst it's ever going to be, and it's only going to get better.
for prices.
Well, no, just performance.
In
So
general.
just
Performance, yeah,
see-
yeah.
just see this in 5 years' time, and this the library of people who buy a 50, 60 or something in a few years' time, they're going to suddenly have so much value open up to them.
Right.
And-
it's not only a couple of years as fast as everything's moving. You're right. For sure.
It is crazy. I tend not to buy the cards of the generation. I tend to wait a couple of years, just because that's who I am. But and money. But people they're now coming out with games. GTA collection. I think you've tried that.
It's called Redacted City Driving Simulator on the spreadsheet.
There you go. So, and how is Redacted City Driving Simulator
It-
with the
very-
injector?
I can see why it's not out on Quest right now.
Okay.
So it's got some problems. They're gonna have to fix a lot of shaders. There's some weird stuff like the objects don't appear properly as it's
So that's the story, isn't it? That's the story of why the Quest version didn't happen.
Well, that release was horrendous, and the people that put it out, I can't remember what the name of the company is now, but I actually got that release when it came out, and it was just done so poorly that I would imagine that I think they had nothing to do with each other as far as the company that was supposed to be working. But again, I don't know. Like they didn't give us much information on what they were doing. So
And Native Stereo has a lot of stuff missing on one eye, but that's the great thing about having this synchronized sequential, which isn't like AER. each frame actually happens with every engine tick. So that's why it looks kind of smooth and native. So that fixes both eyes, so the shaders appear in both eyes. And you can play like that. And I was playing the city driving simulator trilogy for a while, but PrayDog was going to shoot me as Elliot, or someone's going to like send a kill message to my PC to blow it up if I talk about it too much.
No worries. They hit the kill switch. He's out. Boom. What was I going to say?
Did we already find out? Does this support dynamic foveated rendering with eye tracking and stuff like that?
So Matteo Bucchia, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's got the OpenXR toolkit, which is really amazing. And some of the other testers who have Quest Pros, I mean, I have a Quest 3, PrayDog has a Quest Pro as well. You can use that potentially to up your performance. So yeah, like with any game. And I mean, that's all kind of under development, but he's worked very closely with PrayDog and the team about OpenXR support, and I mean PureDoc and some of these big names have been in our chat helping out. So it's definitely being looked at, but it's not a priority, of course. Like, we just want to get this out.
You mentioned John Romero, didn't you? And
yeah, I tweeted out an image of Carmack and Romero and stuff, and I said that's what this feels like this year of just being in this group working on it. It just feels like a game industry changing moment that's just kind of cool. Very rock and roll.
Yeah, I do wonder how many people don't really understand what's happening, if you know what I'm saying. I don't think they necessarily grasp what is actually occurring right now, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they will once they start seeing content creators putting videos all over the place. And it's going to blow up so fast. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what are you guys going to do? Like, are you going to do every game?
I'm going to take Christmas Day off, because another question we have another question I keep getting is, when is it coming? When is it coming? And you, Alex, have said Christmas Day, which I said no.
I hope Christmas Day. I say it would be really good. I think that would be super cool. But PrayDog's been playing World of Warcraft, so
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good choice, PrayDog. I like that.
I mean, seriously, I mean, it's difficult because the last literal month has been amazing new features just come from crazy iteration. And would we have that iteration ability if we released now? I mean, PrayDog has the experience of maintaining the Resident Evil framework. So he has this experience of making a giant project like this public and having to maintain it and support it. And suddenly having to release this as well. I can see the anxiety of that decision. And at the moment, it's just a cool thing amongst us friends. And afterwards, it's going to be this giant thing. So, and he's a young guy; he's younger than us. So,
I honestly see it as like a bit of a VR game release. I would wait until you get to that point. I mean, yeah, it's a bit like developing a game, though. There comes a point where you've got to say, yeah, we can't do this feature. Like, the game's got to go. We can't. Do you know what I mean? You could sit there and just constantly reinvent a game to the point where you never ever fucking release one. So there's got to be a point where you guys go, right, no, this is it. Yeah. This is the cutoff point. We're happy with this.
I think the very base features are very much mature now, and I think once we get some of these accessibility things in, I think personally that basic mode is good to go, and we can just have a massive caveat. If you click that advanced button, you are entering a world of troubleshooting and problems potentially. We're not supporting that. That's experimental.
But that's where your channel and stuff would come into it, because you could do miniature tutorials for specific issues. That there's going to be a top 10 thing of what people will want to do, and
top 200.
Whatever it's going to be, man. Whatever it's going to be, you know. As I said, like the end of my video, the ill will part, that blew my mind. The fact that you just told the software what part of the character mesh or whatever it was in the world you wanted to mesh to, and then you just laid over the fucking cursor kind of thing.
I feel like because this is why you don't get in a flat screen game. I can touch this. This is an object in front of me. I can touch it with my controller, and I'm going to attach it to my controller, which is the magical thing. And
it was insane to see it. Like, the gun went from the left stuck to my face to suddenly being on the right in my hand and then fully movable. So the game went from like just flat to sixed off, and I was like, I can't believe I've just seen it. Like I just couldn't believe I'd saw it, and the game played really well. It ran and played really well.
And that's a game that has like hardly any attention on Steam, and I hope this
did you
will
say it had
give...
no reviews?
Well, it had like very little. It had very little reviews.
The music
and
was
I think
fantastic.
it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So I hope this will spark some fire on some of these older games in Unreal Engine. Like Paradise Decay was trying that Wipeout game by some ex-Wipeout devs, and yeah, it kind of fizzled out. But I mean, in VR with a kind of cockpit mode, it suddenly gets a whole new lease of life.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. People are asking about, someone said Arkham. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Arkham games are good, aren't they?
Unreal Engine 3, sadly. But the closest thing we have is Gotham Knights, which is Unreal Engine 4, and that works.
Gotham Knights. A lot of people didn't like Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
I like
Monkey
Gotham
Ball.
Knights.
What'll be a good way to determine an Unreal version? Can you just query it through the Unreal Injector and it comes back and says this is Unreal Engine version blah? Oh,
so sometimes I've made the stupid mistake of Googling a game and it's Google saying it's Unreal Engine, and then it'll come up with a pop-up and say, I mean, the reason why we have the pop-up is I've told PrayDog, why doesn't this work? And he's like, oh, that's the Katana engine or something. But the main thing, just go into your game files and hover over the exe, and that will tell you the version, or just use SteamDB. And this is where I'm hoping Gabe and Tim are watching, and they decide to actually put that information somewhere on the store page, because this is now, you have VR games and you have Unity games and Godot games.
Wow,
It's pretty mad, isn't it? Like,
Very cool.
what would be the games? What would be the games you guys would want to play or experience? Because to be honest, like doing Returnal, because and I'll tell you why. Because I remember two things happened before PSVR 2 launched, and neither of them I've ever said on the channel was like a thing that could happen. Is someone told me that there was indeed a VR port happening for Returnal on PSVR 2, and I also got told that Half-Life Alyx was going to launch with PSVR 2. So they were the two things I thought were kind of cool. Obviously, I don't think Half-Life Alyx will happen, but Returnal I've still always kept. Like, I'm like, why can't that happen? And I think your tools gave me the ability to put the camera where I thought it would be, so I could look down, see the body, see my gun, and then run around in that game. And suddenly it was like, and I think in my video I said it is like a bit of a fantasy, like, and that's what it felt like. It was kind of like the first time, not quite as severe as this, because I don't want to blow it up, but it was almost as close as the first time you go into VR and you know a game, and then you see the same game in VR. It was like that wow transition.
I can't go back. But yeah, there's, I mean,
amazing.
so many of our team have so much different personal choice. I mean, I like a lot of JRPGs, fighting games, racing games. So I'm looking forward to stuff like Warhammer 40K, Space Marine. It's like a third-person slasher. There's a bunch of like really cool indie games. I'm in a playtest for Chasing the Unseen. Recommend checking that out. It's got a demo right now. You're like platformer with this crazy octopus fractal monsters. Yeah, there's just so much stuff coming up. I really hope we get Ashes of Creation, which is an MMO. Hopefully that works. But I hope the main thing is developers will see this and think, you know what, I'm going to revisit my project, and I'm just going to turn that on in Unreal Engine. The UI doesn't have to be perfect. I've played it, and I didn't care about the UI being a floating box, which also in our mod you can change to a cylinder and move around at will if you want. But yeah, stuff like that, you really just don't care. I mean, you just enjoy playing the game. I mean, I was playing this thing with a ball in a puzzle world, and you were just going on an alien planet, and it was just mental. And I was like, this is great. I don't care about, is this a VR tailored game design or game account? I don't care. It's just like a cool ball bearing monkey ball thing I just found on Steam.
Gravel was amazing.
Yeah.
Like
Racing games are good.
I just couldn't believe that I'd put money on that being a real VR game. That's how good it was. Like, no
and we
shit.
didn't try like there's like a Monster Energy Supercross game that was like £2 on Steam, and it's great. Oh my god, it's a dirt bike VR game. We've got monster truck VR games. We've got like the ones where you're going over rocks. There's so many things that just naturally think the sim community is going to go wild.
I
I have
want
a
to see.
question here too. Do you think there's any way that this could kind of work backwards for us? Meaning, do you think this might work so well that some companies go, we're going to do an Unreal or a VR version, but why bother? There's the Unreal Director.
That's the
And
Talos
it-
principle too, devs. I mean, that's essentially that.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, they've seen that and think, well, just use that. I mean, why bother?
Mhm.
But I think there's the glint of people like, if you really care about your project, you want to make it perfect. And the fans who are really passionate about a single game like Returnal, they're going to go in, Chris, and they're going to go and make that sixed off, and they're going to tweak it all to be completely perfect, without using the kind of quick UI settings. And they'll share that around and think, this is our vision for it. And then some other team will be like, no, this is our vision for it. And you can just choose at your leisure. And
I mean, either way,
yeah.
you've got to buy the game, right?
You got to buy the game.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
Right,
not
it's good
forget.
it's good for the developers.
It's good
at least
for-
the
it's
ones
good for the
that aren't
game.
short-sighted.
It's good for retention.
It's good for us. GT, I want to see you stream Returnal in VR, first person, and I want to see you kick ass because I don't know that it can be done in first person. I mean, I know it can be done. This is what I was thinking, and I was thinking it would be great for Wes, for someone that's like really like you almost need another. You need another obstacle. You know what I mean? Like you're so good at the game because it's fucking hard in third person. There's
Returnal
so
is
much
tough.
going on. Once you get to the harder levels, the second, the third biome, like there's so much going on. I don't know that being in first person is preferable anyway if you want to do well.
You
But
could
it's
be
cool that
right,
there's
but
an
I don't.
option.
I'm not sure if I'd be against playing it in third person though either, because even seeing it in third person, that still had a massive. As soon as I put the headset on, and I could see her butt, and the lightning and stuff, I was like, oh shit, like that. That was a wow moment in itself. And then being able to actually move the camera to where I wanted it inside her head, and I could even see her eyeballs and shit. Like, it's just, yeah, I would probably play that in third person with a game controller. If what you're saying is going to happen, and I do think it will, because when I played it, the dash button was in the wrong place, and you need to obviously dash around a lot. It was on the same controller.
It's got DualSense support, so you get the haptic controllers as well on the Steam release.
Right. And the haptics, the adaptive triggers are so good in that game.
It just looked
So-
amazing, Root. Like, yeah.
So this is a question for the team. So I get this question a lot in my videos. Third person games, do they work in VR? Because
Yeah.
the
Yes.
majority of Unreal Engine games I've tested, way more than 50% are third person games
Why?
out of the 600.
I just played through the entire game of Uncharted 4 within the last 2 months, and it's one of the best games I've ever played in VR. And it's because of the gameplay, the story, like everything is so AAA, so amazing. I don't care if it's in third person. I get it. Some people get caught up and they have to be the character. That's fine. You know, maybe third person's not for you. Cut out that 50% of amazing games that he just mentioned. They're not for you, but you're missing out because I shouldn't make a difference. I don't think.
And I don't think VR developers have to worry, because I still want to go play Blade and Sorcerer. I still want to go play Vertigo. This just fills in that gap between releases. Like, you make a really awesome native VR port, it gets the attention. But yeah, I'm going to play Returnal third person. I'm going to play Sackboy and just enjoy it.
Yes.
One of the most magical things was playing It Takes Two. So one of the quite cool little features we added was a split screen mode. So it breaks up the split screen games. Now in flat screen, you cannot play that game online without having the screen split in half. But with this, you get full
wow.
isolation of just one character. So you don't see the other side, which makes some of the puzzles harder, but also kind of more fun. But we were both in VR, me and Elliot. He was in America, I'm in the UK, and we were having a complete blast. We even recorded maybe 2 hours of footage, and I didn't click record, and then I said, "Oh, we're gonna have to do that again." And it's fine. We just kept going. Yeah.
It's the best co-op game I've ever played. I wish every co-op game used what they do, because you have to work together. Like you said, you could run off and do your own thing, but a minute or two later, you're at some door and you're like, well, why can't I go? Oh shit, he's got to get on this. And like, I just, I think that was one of my favorite games. I've played flat in the last couple of years with MASH, and I would love to go through the entire game again in VR.
And also the amount of free-to-play games that people are going to have when this releases. So if you've got no PC VR games, you're broke. Don't worry, you're going to have dozens and dozens of amazing free-to-play games. So Palia, a free-to-play MMO, that works completely fine. We got Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising coming out in January. That's a free-to-play fighting game. We have things like the Radiohead experience on Epic, which is like this really cool free like album museum thing. You're it's going to sell headsets. I hope that's what comes out of it. So
Arthur's just said the new Silent Hill game will work with this.
I hope, yeah.
Oh
I'm looking
my
forward to it.
God, man. Oh my God, I love Silent Hill so much. That'd be insane.
I don't see how this doesn't help sell headsets, at least to the PC VR crowd or the people that are thinking about getting a Valve Index or whatever. Because for the most part, with PC VR, what do they have to look forward to in these games that are coming out? There's not many. Arizona Sunshine 2. We had the was it Guest VR or what's that?
Seventh Guest.
Seventh Guest.
Yeah.
You know, there's some really good games, but not many. But the same problem that I just said, all those AAA gamers that came over, played Half-Life Alyx, and then put their headset on the shelf.
Yeah.
Now they don't need to. They've got like so many amazing games, all their favorites. That reaction you were talking about, that friend of yours that came over, like that's going to happen to everybody. Everybody's got a favorite like genre or type of game that they just dream of being in that game, and now they're going to get to do it. I think it is going to sell headsets.
And the thing is with VR games, like if you become a VR gamer and your friends don't, you have to find new gaming friends to play those games with. But with this, I've been playing with flat people and they have no idea. I've been playing cross-play stuff with people on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch, and they don't even know I'm in VR. So I think that's going to be great. Like you'll be able to enjoy VR and bring your friends along, and maybe you can convince them, hey, I'm having a really good time. You should come over and try it.
I think it's so good, man. What a great time as well, especially in line with like Quest 3, because that headset's so good for the money. It is crazy. But I know Quest 2's taken off again, isn't it? In sales. So
it has been. What I want to know is how are we going to supplement our income here? Because now we have all these new games we're going to buy.
Yeah, I feel your pain.
Everything just opened.
I probably spent over $4,000 probably just on games this year.
That's for English pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Add a few zeros.
That's like that's like $5,000. I don't know.
Yeah.
The good news is a lot of these games are older and you can get the cheap keys from somewhere, right? And so like you can make your dollars stretch if you look at the right places.
Yeah. The biggest question from people are like, what do I buy in the Steam sale? What do I buy in the winter Steam sale? I'll get that constantly. So I need to work on that. Yeah. Check the spreadsheet.
Sherzod, thank you for the $2 donation. Has asked, what about haptics or Pro Volva or external device support?
We've been thinking about this. So some of the guys, none of us own one of these like crazy sim rigs or haptic vests.
You don't own B haptics?
No. So a lot of us were like, oh, what inputs do we need? What do we need to pass you? But I think once it's out, it's open source. Right. Third-party companies go nuts.
Interesting.
So will there be a way to kind of intercept where the haptics are happening and be able to make this easier to implement haptics into games?
Well, I mean, a lot of the work is PrayDog has done, which again is kind of boring, silent work for the last year, is making that API that you're plugging into UEVR. And you're hooking into everything it hooks into. So if you can write C++ or a UE blueprint, go ahead. You can hook into everything it does. So I'm really excited to see people try and make things and also start to learn UE because of this. Because I have some obscure game no one knows about, and I want to make it perfect.
I see it a bit like the Dreams on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The
stuff people have done with that is insane.
Yeah, and I just didn't see that until I tried it. That's the problem. That's the thing. You know, I just didn't see that side of this until getting in there. I was like, oh wow, like this is far more than just oh yeah, this game looks like it's in VR. You know, there's a lot more going on.
And everyone's thinking like 6-DoF motion controls are the main plugin they want. But I'm thinking of like XCOM style games I've played where I want like hand tracking to pick up characters. I want to move my hand to change the world scale. I want to see really creative ways people add their new input. And yeah, it's really exciting. Just I can't contain it. So I'm happy to share it with you guys.
Dude, it was an absolute honor to try it. Like I think in that video I shook your hand because I was just like, I was like, yeah, this actually made the whole thing worth it easily.
I don't know if you watched the Great British Bake Off, but there's the Paul Hollywood handshake. I thought you were doing that with me. I thought I was honored to get the handshake from GT.
Are you saying I'm Paul? I was the Paul Hollywood at the time.
Yeah, the Paul Hollywood. I'm sorry for the American guests, but I felt like in this baking show, the host, who's very kind of like strict, if they make a really good cake, he gives a handshake, and that's what they're all wanting for.
Oh dear, I'd love his money.
Yeah.
I'll tell my wife that. Yeah, she watches British Bake Off. I have seen it, obviously. I know who he is. And to be honest, I don't watch it because it just makes me hungry. So, and I could eat so much. So, let's try and talk about some of the games that are actual VR games coming out this month. And it's kind of a bit weird to talk about that. How are you guys hyped for Arizona Sunshine? Because I believe if you pre-ordered it, you'll be able to play it tomorrow.
Oh my god!
I am so freaking excited. I'm like stoked. Over the moon. Excited.
2 days early access. Like that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's awesome. It's awesome that we've got more Arizona Sunshine, which is essentially, I think, what this is going to be. You know, a continuation of a VR classic, which I've loved, and it's probably the one game that I've played through and finished more than any other. You know, I've finished it a bunch of times solo and pretty much co-opted it with everyone in my family and a bunch of friends. Like, I'm excited for it. If for nothing else, just for the nostalgia of it. It's like awesome.
Yeah, I wonder how new people will find it. Like, find it as a how they receive it if they haven't played the first one. I do wonder what their expectations are.
That's a good question. You know, people have hyped it through the moon, comparing it to things like Half-Life Alyx and, you know, and really putting it over hard.
You told me Half-Life. Someone said Half-Life Alyx the other
A
week.
lot of people said Half-Life
Multiple.
Alyx with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't see that. I don't know why anyone would say that, but
Yeah, I don't either.
Compare things to Half-Life Alyx, but then you go into Half-Life Alyx and you really remember what's so special about that game, and you're like, oh yeah, never mind.
that game is it's fucking next level. I mean, what is it? Is it 3 years old now?
Yeah, or a
would be
lot
neat.
more, right? Like
No, it can't be more.
2020.
Yeah, it was
2020, yeah. So 3 years old.
I mean, I still to this day, and it sounds so sad. I think it's one of those things that I'd remember when I die. If flashbacks are real, the end of that game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fucking
Bro,
hell.
feel you. Oh my god, I cried, man.
It
I
was
legit cried.
like the whole sequence with all the fucking green shit and everything, and then the end as well. Just like that was so visually impactful. That's what I mean, dude. Like, but then I still remember the first time we got fluid in a bottle in VR.
Right, yeah.
Like the first time they were like, I can't remember, someone put a clip of it, just like they had a bottle like that and they just tipped it. And I was like, what the fuck? I don't know what I was doing, but I stopped it immediately and run to my headset. And I was like, whoa, I can move fluid around in a glass bottle and it looks really real. You can see the bubbles and and that's the difference. That's why I don't mean to go back to the modern again, but that's what makes this so special is there's not many games that have these size development teams and these budgets to make these games look so good. And now you will be able to see these games in VR.
Well, and the gameplay is actually not ass. Like, I'm sorry, but like a lot of these games in VR built from the ground up, when you compare it to the AAA net, when you sit them side by side, they just don't compare. You know, so
even basic stuff like achievements. Like, it'd be great to get some.
Yeah, just
Like-
little things. So like it's not only about graphics. These big studios, man, they know the gameplay loop. They know all these little tricks that make you really love the game, enjoy every aspect of it, right? And so like that's what I look forward the most to. And I look forward to like seeing more of it. Like actually, I keep hearing this really bothers me. Hearing people trash Sony and I get it. It's a slow release. Whatever they've gotten, they're not showing their cards. Tell me one other company that's actually supporting AAA games as 100%. You have a game in flat, and the VR people get the exact same game.
They've only
There's
done it.
nobody.
They've only done it a few times, though, Roots. We
and
need
they've
it
done
to
it-
have more.
Okay, but how many times have they done it this year?
3,
December 3.
4.
So this is the thing. The precedent is set. To me, they've shown in the short amount of time the PlayStation VR 2 has came out. They've already done it 3 times.
Yeah, like we've got Resident Evil 4 remake coming on the 8th.
Right.
Like
We got
that's-
and we got a remake. Exactly. So, but what is coming out for PC or Quest, with the exception of Resident Evil 4, that's the exact same game?
Yeah.
None. We get a version of it. We
Or
get
we-
Assassin's
or-
Creed Lite.
Or we get
You
our
know?
own VR games.
Or we get our own IPs, which are good. They just, like you just said, they don't have the money or the development put behind them. They're not developed for 10 years.
But here's a
So-
question. Here's a question. There's a different, right? Here's something that we can talk about. So in VR games, for example, let's talk about Arizona Sunshine, because I played one part of it twice and I can probably talk about that. Obviously, reloading a gun means pressing a button, ejecting the clip, putting the clip in, cocking the gun. We can't do that with mods, can we? I mean,
No.
that is a fundament. I mean, hold on, go on, Alex.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, you should check out the Deus Ex mod. So that's an Unreal Engine 1 to Unreal Engine 5 project.
Right.
And the guy behind that, keep an eye on that, because he's looking at trying to add some motion controlled reloading to it. So yeah, and
I know it
with
can happen.
VR,
I know it can
you-
happen. I know.
we could do it.
I know with, like, from what I've seen, literally one game mods, focused mods, it can be done. But
Yeah.
that-
Like Deep Rock
like-
Galactic, stuff like this.
that's
yeah.
what I'm saying. So, but an actual universal,
Oh no way, yeah. You someone would have to be creative and put all those pieces together to get something like a manual reload.
yeah.
But there's a lot of people in the world.
There is a lot of people in the world. There's loads, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Like you just said, there could be a guy on a team of a game, and they'll see your injector. They'll try their game and go, "Wow, like this is incredible," and then they'll go fully into it and make a VR version.
I hope.
We all hope. So yeah, that was one of my things, Roots. I'm really glad we actually started talking about that. You know, there is some differences. You know, like
Well, there's differences, and there's reasons for these developers to exist, and that I think somebody said it in the chat earlier, and I've said this a while ago. They said they're kind of worried for some of the devs out there, because even though this is a completely different genre, a different thing, different aspect, this is rising the bar up, and just like everything else. And so, even though it's a different way of accessing it, people now have access to hundreds of AAA games. And so how does it not raise everything up?
I do worry about that as well. Like the part of my mind that says, okay, if I bought my headset, I would just be playing Trials of Mana, Grand Blue, and Guilty Gear for like the next year, and I'd be completely happy. I probably wouldn't even buy anything new. So yeah, it's part of me. They're gonna have to fight for that attention, and they're gonna have to really up their game.
Which is good, because I kind of feel like in a way it's been kind of a lazy atmosphere for some developers.
I've had a lot of,
So
not a lot, but I don't want to say a lot. I've had some PSVR 2 owners ask me, is this good enough to sell the PS5 and their PlayStation VR 2 to get a PC? And I'm like, this is huge. Like, I don't even want to answer that in a way, because it's very different, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I don't know if, personally, I want it. I try to keep it all, like I love my PC and I want to use this and I want to dip into this, that, and the other. I couldn't imagine, even though the games library, your VR games library, how many games are we talking potentially? If you,
Well, my library is I mean, out of the spreadsheet of 600 plus tested, it's just over 500 which works perfectly and works okay. And some of us are like I'm really harsh. Like one small thing, I'll knock it down that works well. But if you include everything that's there, yeah, big titles, really big ones, about 300 easily.
Yeah, that's just it's quite scary. It's quite crazy. Like as you said, when you said to me, "Oh, you know, how would you do this? How would you cover it?" And I'm thinking, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like,
yeah,
you know, where would I start?
Yeah,
I'd probably just start with exactly the games that I would always dream of experiencing, and that's it.
yeah, because like if a game comes out, I mean, I'm looking forward to some really awesome looking Unreal Engine games next year, like Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. I'm like, it comes out, and the day it comes out, you just play it in VR, and you're just in amongst all the other content creators making content for that game, and just the VR guys will be like, oh wow, that's something I'll check out. And I think you'll still be different from the rest of the coverage of that particular game. I think we'll still have our VR community.
That'd be interesting. That my video actually did really well. I was so surprised how many people are interested in
the hype is real.
Yeah, and I don't mean that. I mean, like, because you end up talking on podcasts and stuff, and you'd probably say, yeah, I don't know, I know 2,000 people who are interested. But there was a lot of views on that video in a very short space of time, where people are very excited for. Literally, I guess they feel like they're owed something from being a PCVR user as well, you know, because like Root said, where are the games for these guys, you know, who invest all this money because they've had a top tier experience? Even once you've had that taste of like, oh wow, PCVR is this, and then
I mean, I was getting emotional last night. You saw me. I was messaging you like, oh, but Danny, he's pushing all my buttons. He's saying flat to VR isn't the future. And I'm just thinking, I've spent the last year in the most amazing worlds. You guys have no idea. I feel,
Yeah.
I was tearing up a little bit. I was like, I have to make a video response to this. So I just clipped up an early release draft of UEVR that I'd made just to kind of put some ideas out, and I thought I had the perfect music for it. I'm gonna have to find a new song for the release trailer now, so thanks.
Just because someone's smart or has a company does not mean that they fully understand. Look at John Carmack thought that fitness in VR was a waste of time, right? I mean, and so I mean, you can't listen to that. The proof is in the pudding, man. This comes out and people really understand how to use it and they want to play games. I mean, this is going to be a big deal. Sure, some people will get motion sickness, won't be able to handle it, but you know, the majority of the people that have bought into this ecosystem and that want to play VR, we're all over that. Right. We want to play some games. I am stoked. I have a whole new horizon of games I'm looking forward to. Bring me Unrecord, man. I'm so stoked for some of these games that I'm like, oh, that's awesome, but it's flat, so I'll never play it. It's not the case anymore. Like this is a whole new thing.
I even like playing some 2D games. So Ender Lilies is a 2D side scroller, but you can see all the little layers and the parallax, and I'd play it in VR.
You're still isolated and immersed in VR, and you still have that 3D depth, right? There's a case for that as well. Do you think this Wes, do you think this will push Sony and like, where is Sony's like universal injector for their games or whatever? Like we talked about, maybe them at least even just putting games in 3D, right? The flat games. I would hope Sony at some point would do that, right?
Yeah, you know, kind of a 3D cinema mode, right? Even if the games aren't full 3D, just being able to play in 3D using your VR headset is something we've called for years. And yeah, you'd think so. You'd think any of these advancements, you know, be it Luke Ross or be it you know, Super Depth 3D and Reshade, and now the PrayDog Universal 3D injector, all of this stuff you would think acts as a proof of concept. It shows, you know, like GT said, shows that there's a lot of interest in this sort of thing. And, you know, the hardware requirements are coming down as the computers get stronger, and, you know, mid-range computers get more affordable. This stuff becomes more accessible to the mainstream. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Sony's going to have anything out anytime soon, but maybe, you know, the next gen, for the next PlayStation VR, this is something that they start to look at because of advancements like this.
Yeah, it's crazy,
I mean-
man. I
I mean,
mean,
if you've looked at the Steam Deck and you've looked at the UI mods that people have done for it, like Decky, of the Steam Decky thing, where I could imagine someone like Epic taking our open source code and just making a whole new UI for it, and Steam making a whole new UI for it, and GOG making a whole new UI for it. I mean, they can do it if they want. I think it would be cool. Make it seamless, add friends lists, do all kinds of stuff.
mental.
Right, and that's the beauty of it. It isn't a finished product, but it's more of a starting point than a finished product. It's a tool set for people to refine over the coming years and make better. That's the beauty of the whole thing, really.
Yeah, for sure. Fifth with a $2 donation, Arizona Sunshine 2. I think this is a deluxe edition, I'm assuming. It's $75 in Australia. Sounds so much money, dude. I don't know the Australian dollar to the American dollar to the pound. But he says game length is his concern. Well, some reviews will be going up shortly. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow. I'm always wondering whether you can reveal embargoes, but it just seems like the norm now. I remember back in the day when I started doing reviews, the embargo was under embargo. Like, if that sounds correct.
Yeah, I typically avoid it, but in a case like this where the game's going live to some people tomorrow, obviously the embargo is going to be up.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying,
right?
man. Like in general, I see the embargo broken constantly, like online and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a thing of the old days. Wormsworth with the $5 and just says, "Yo,
Yo, what up?
yo, dude, thank you ever so much. Thank you to everyone for being here. I am very inconsistent, so I really do appreciate all of you jumping in. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 remake, like talking about VR mods. I mean, it's free as well. And going by
Dude,
yeah,
what a week for PlayStation VR, right? With
you got
Arizona
Arashi?
Sunshine 2, Arashi,
Yeah.
Vertigo 2, and Resident Evil 4 remake. Holy
Boom.
shit, dude. Have we seen a better week?
When
for
is
any
Vertigo
platform
2? Is it the
ever?
12th?
Jeez.
Is it the 12th?
Something like that. Something like that. It's this week. Yeah.
Is it this week?
It's in a 7-day span. All four
Oh.
of those games come out.
Fucking hell, dude. I was
I
just
mean,
thinking.
not just PlayStation, right? Then there's a whole bunch of games coming for Quest. There's even
Yeah.
game coming. There's so much stuff happening, man. This is a killer next 2 weeks
Yeah.
for next week, next 7 days or so for VR. It's absolutely nutty how many games are coming out.
I think the biggest one in terms of gameplay length officially is sounding like Asgard's Wrath.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's the 15th. So 11 days on that one. So yeah, it's nuts. And we've just had Sniper Elite. We just had Assassin's Creed and then Vampire the Masquerade before that. Stride Fates. I mean, it's just been one after another, after another, after another.
Bangers.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I do wish in some ways this channel was a bit of an IGN, so I could have a team and I could say, right,
Yeah,
you
for real,
review that,
man.
you review that, because it's so hard to fucking keep up, you know. I could do one platform. I could cover one platform, but like with Arizona, I've had to play the game 3 times, and
I haven't done Quest yet. I've bounced around a bit with it. Started on PlayStation. I went into the G2, went to Quest 3, back to G2, back to PlayStation. I haven't done Quest at all yet, though.
Yeah,
Probably should.
yeah. It's I can't say, but yeah, I literally cannot say.
A difference a day can make, right?
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say, yeah. What did you guys think of? Did we talk about Assassin's Creed? Did we miss the show for Assassin's Creed or not?
I think
I can't wait. I can't wait to play that.
We talked.
No,
about
we covered it. Remember MASH and the micro stutters?
Oh fuck yeah!
I'm like 9 hours in now. I've got.
How dare you mention those micro stutters?
Oh my god, man! I did
How
not.
dare you?
Sorry to cut you off, Skeever, but I was
No,
listening.
fine.
I always listen back to this show, right? I actually like listening to my own podcast, and I don't mean that in a weird way. I love my own voice, but I do love listening to this podcast because you miss bits where everyone's talking and stuff.
That's true. That's
And
true.
I listened to MASH, and it was like listening to a crazed man argue with himself. No one had fucking mentioned microstutters, but he was actually like getting angry about them and then defending them. And it was like, it's a crazy episode to listen to. It really is.
Weird.
It was really fucking weird. And I think Roots even said it. Like, he went, no one's talking about microstutters, dude. Like, blah, blah. And he just
spent 15 minutes on this. It's like, no, you spent 15 minutes on this. We've been
I
listening to you.
I was thinking, man, you're killing my podcast. People are probably thinking, yeah, fucking skip this bollocks. But yeah, what was it? Oh yeah, Sniper Elite. That's what I wanted to talk about. You guys played it? What did you think?
I haven't played it yet. I've been playing that other game that we can't talk about mostly. Honestly, I've had a medical thing going on that's kept me out of VR, but the little bit that I have played, it's all been in one spot that we'll talk about after tomorrow, I suppose.
Nice, dude. Nice.
Dee's been I haven't not tried it either, but Dee went in there and was telling me about it, and she's really loving it. She loved the first one, and she said this is more of that, and is very happy with it. And I think that's the big story with that, right? Is like people say if you like the first one, you're gonna like this. This is more of the first game, and I think that what's awesome is the developers know exactly what they're selling, and they sold it for such an appropriate price, right? $15. I mean, it's worth the price from what people are saying about it. If you love this type of game, right? So
sorry, Wes.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's $15, and it's just enough that you can put the referral link on it too, and get like an additional $3.50 off of it.
That's mental, isn't it? It's like, oh
yeah,
fucking referrals. What was I going to say? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Roots. The problem with it was though, it felt very old for a new game in a lot of ways, but the sniping was fun. And it never stopped being fun, you know, and I still enjoyed it. So, yeah, it was a weird one to review. Errol MC, thank you for the £5 donation. Latest discussion. Just stumbled on the channel. Sorry, is there a release date for UEVR? Amazing work. This would be a game changer.
So at the moment, we've only we're not like a media company or a game development studio. So we've just said expected 2023 to keep us relatively loose. I mean, I personally, I would love it to be like Christmas or something like that, because I think it would be like an amazing present to the world. But it's up to PrayDog. It's his thing, and we've seen it before with people like Lubos and Mateo, and we don't want people like this to get burnt out. I mean, summer. I mean, I kind of stopped testing as well, and everyone kind of did their own thing. We went and did some other projects, some cool stuff that's coming down the pipeline that you guys will see. And it was just a time to just not think about it. And when we came back after summer, like the pace was so much better. So I don't want someone as amazing as PrayDog to get stressed from just the community reaction, because it's all very well saying to release it, but as an individual, as a human person, having to deal with all those online comments and not being like a content creator or anything, I think it takes a toll on you. And I mean, I've even seen it myself, and I'm just kind of a small channel, so. Yeah, I mean, everyone sends love to him and gives support, and I think the VR community hopefully will get something soon. But yeah, no official release, but it would be nice if we could. But yeah, as GT said, it would be nice if you were like IGN and had a team of staff and stuff
man,
like that.
It'd be amazing. Mr. Survivor with the £5 donation. I'm not sure what the 3 is for. I don't know whether he's added a sticker to that. I'm super excited to get my nerdy hands on the UEVR injector, and appreciate you guys with a fist and a beer. Thank you, dude. Really appreciate that. And yeah, as I said, I was very excited to try this, and it blew my expectations. Like it was far better than I expected. And Gravel, very first of all, just that was it. Like that I can't believe that's not a VR game.
Yeah, I mean, I was amazed we got the seal of approval from PD. He's doing all this stuff in Reshade, Vorpex, and he was kind of coming in skeptical, and he seemed to do like a complete 180. It was great to see. Yeah, his video.
He really did. He really did do a 180 as well. Like while I was there. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, we have nearly hit the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to call it quits. Hopefully, are we all back? Has anyone got to disappear next week? Is anyone going on a holiday? Is there any VR awards again? Is anything happening that we didn't talk about the week before that we should have remembered before we said we were coming back?
I might possibly be out next week for family stuff.
We'll just call the
But-
show off then.
Well, yeah, that's what normally
No
happens,
West,
right?
no show. Mhm.
Christmas. Yeah.
Okay, so Wes might not be here. Roots?
I should be here. I mean, the only time I'm not here is like if for some reason my job fucks me over.
Too many insects, whatever they're called.
Yeah, all of a sudden my schedule is like, oh, you got plenty of time to do this 12-unit apartments for roaches, and usually it's not enough time.
Have you had a roach actually touch you?
Oh yeah, no, I cry. You know, it's funny when I first started 10 years ago, I'd watch my boss just sit there and squash him. I'm like, oh, dude. Now I'm like, you see one with an egg sack on it, I'm getting that fucker, dude. You're not getting away from if I can help it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's all right. I wash my hands, Steven.
Fuck.
But I'll tell you what, man, it's effective. I don't know. Somebody's got to do it, and I feel like that's
Do you have
what
like
God made
big
me for.
roach killing boots or something?
No, I just got my spray can and my a real menacing look. They go running.
Do you have that proper like American thing with the shades and the bandana and all that stuff?
Yeah, no, I don't have any of that.
And a Harley Davidson with your beard fucking flying down the road.
I think that would be cool. But
would be cool.
No, that would be awesome.
I'm telling you to do that.
I'll do it for next week.
Thank you. I'd like you to have like a hat with a skull on it. Fucking
Oh, my
leather jacket.
cousin says literally eating dinner. Not anymore. Now you're probably doing something else.
Crazy. Yeah, what about you, Skipper? Can you make it next week?
I will be here. Can't wait.
What about Happiest Bradley?
Yeah, next week I can. The week after I can't.
What happens the week after? What date is that?
18th. Right before
18th.
Christmas.
I can't do the 18th, but we will be doing the Monday after, I think, but I can't do the one.
The Monday after would be Christmas, right?
Gee, I'm going live. No, I don't know.
Oh, might be actually.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. Oh
Yeah,
god,
'cause if
we can't not. We got to have another show at least before Christmas.
That would be next week, and then 2 weeks off.
So
and
we can
then
do the 11th.
3 weeks.
We could do the 11th. Maybe we should try and do a show on like the 20th or something, like a Wednesday, just bang in the middle somewhere, if possible, or something on the 21st. I don't know.
Or Thursday.
What's that? Your live Thursday.
Or Thursday. I was just saying, you know,
I'll
I'm not going to do Monday. We should do Thursday.
Yeah, yeah. Don't pick another day that's gonna. Wes is on a different show. Weekends are good for me, and too, is But
So if I don't do a Monday, I've got to do a Thursday.
I'm just saying that would be preferable to me.
Okay.
But who am I, right?
You are a good.
you're the
What?
Wes.
You're like, what are you? Well, I'm not very good at maths. 15% of the show. It's a big percentage or something. I'm not sure.
Thank you. for
But
that.
yeah, thank you to our guest, Alex.
Thanks for having me on.
Waifu enjoyer, not waifu, waifu. I felt really scolded earlier, Bradley. I'll be honest. He's just like, he slammed me. He's like,
Wait till we get off the air. He's been waiting.
he's going to be so angry with me.
He is
that I said,
pissed.
Could we talk about one more topic? I know we're going over a little bit.
Brad,
Oh,
I
go for it.
always want you to talk. Yeah?
Do it.
Always.
Okay,
We got
good.
Everyone
No,
get back
cool.
in their seats. Everyone sit back down.
Sorry,
Everyone sit back
sorry.
down, please. Thank you.
We're trying to boost those the viewer minutes here on the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, no. One thing someone keeps asking me in chat, and I was hoping I could talk a little bit about is I got to try the new Vario headset last week.
Oh, yes.
Ah,
Your video
yes.
is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting because as I said, it's kind of a Vario's in an interesting place right now because they've really killed it with the enterprise market and like the military focus and all that stuff very well. I think so I went to a show. It was basically a military simulation focused show. And the interesting thing about the show is you didn't just see Vario headsets at the Vario booth, you saw them at a lot of booths there to kind of give you an idea of how successful they kind of are. A lot of companies are using them, even though they're just historically extremely expensive, right? Out of our realm for sure.
Yeah.
However, we're kind of in an interesting age of the industry where you're starting to see some extremely high-end headsets come out from more based companies, right? Like Apple, for example. I think Apple is actually a very serious, in some ways, competitor to what Vario has been offering. In fact, I've said this before, but it's kind of a secret within the industry that before Apple had any like hardware of their own to give to developers to develop their software, they were actually buying a bunch of Vario XR headsets to give to their dev team because that was the standard that they were expecting for their own hardware whenever.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so the idea is well, they were, they funded Vario, they bought Vario, and now they might someday be Vario's biggest competitor in the enterprise realm if they choose to do so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to try the XR4 and it was very interesting headset. The biggest takeaway is instead of doing their previous XR3 had 2 displays per eye. That was kind of their gimmick actually for the past 3 XR headsets. They'd have a very high resolution, tiny display in the middle. So if you looked at text or anything, it would be human eye resolution at 70 pixels per degree, but in a very small spot, right? And then they would fill out your FOV with a second display behind that one. It would be a lower resolution in some ways, right? Display technology, basically, you don't really need to do that as much anymore. Display technology has caught up to the fact where they can just, for the most part, advertise human eye resolution, even though it's, that varies upon different people with one display. So they have now 4K per eye displays in that headset. Interesting thing is they're the same size displays as the Valve Index. So it's funny to imagine, like, wow, what if someone wanted a Valve Index with those kind of displays? Because they would fit, even though the actual hardware wouldn't support that. But it's kind of funny thinking about that.
Yeah.
And another big thing is a lot of people were asking is there's one new gimmick, I guess you could say, a cool gimmick. I think it's a good gimmick. They have the regular XR4 at $4,000, which has like very high resolution pass through. I mean, they always have the best pass through hardware wise, 20 megapixels per eye, and they're very big sensors. They have LiDAR and everything, so they do very good occlusion with your fingers on top of digital objects, which is very immersive for AR. It's like if you're not doing occlusion well on an expensive AR headset, you're useless in my opinion. Anyway, but they also have a focal edition, which is like extremely more expensive than the regular XR4. And the only defining feature about it is they applied a special autofocusing lens on top of the cameras that you use pass-through for. So, for example, Vario headsets have eye tracking, and normally when you stare at a pass-through image, it's only set on one focal point dead on. So things up close or super far will never be autofocused on no matter what. So things in a distance look bad if you're in a cockpit or something, which is a very huge use case for Vario products. Things up close, like a physical cockpit, which usually they overlay that on top of the digital world. Those control panels look blurry because they just can't change the focal distance of the actual cameras. Now they have autofocusing things on the focal edition, so it's really neat. You would be able to like look all across the hall of the convention hall and like kind of focus in with the eye tracking and to be able to actually focus on like a super far away banner very well, which kind of is interesting, not only because I think that products that push mixed reality are going to eventually adopt this as well, but this starts getting into the interesting territory of AR where people will start being able to add superhuman vision to products.
I was just going to say, dude, like when we talk about Awaken Toast vision in his headset, that's crazy. That's
yeah, just imagine, like, eventually these products will be able to have some really good variable zoom on top of that autofocus, and obviously camera technology is constantly improving because that's actually the one technology I think that's always obviously improving in smartphones, which is a huge market. So it's way easy to grab those improvements and apply them to mixed reality headsets, which is why I think mixed reality headsets will always be better than optical AR, no matter what the crap they do with them. But yeah, it was a really cool headset. I don't think people were asking if I think it's that focal edition is worth it over the regular. No, but mainly because I've seen that technology before in going to like a lot of component focused events. You kind of know how they're doing everything because you see these companies and you're like, oh, you're using this, right? And then they're like, yeah, we're using that. And yeah, Sharp showed off that technology. And I do think eventually over time that technology will get cheaper and start being put in more consumer laying products. But it is a really cool feature. It gives you just like with every other Vario headset, it gives you a cool glimpse of what will happen in the next few years in terms of technology, making it into the higher end consumer. And overall, it was a really cool headset and actually very well designed in terms of like weight balance. That was kind of the big defining feature because they don't use pancake lenses, which I think will hurt them over time still, even though they're advertising some really good aspheric lenses. But I think bulkiness will. I always think bulkiness is a problem when it comes to getting people to want a hardware. And yeah, but obviously they're still technically a startup. Vario's still technically a startup, so they don't have the mass supply chain power like companies like Apple and Meta do. So yeah.
Do you remember Michael Abrash doing the talk before about the varifocal stuff? Because you talk about that, and I'm just immediately thinking about I want that varifocal in VR as well.
Are you talking about the half dome thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
But didn't they have actual like real lenses that swapped?
Well, there's three versions. There was a physical one, the original half dome, and then there was a smaller physical, which was the half dome 2. But the half dome 3 achieves it in a very different way by using like this kind of LCD that changes depending upon what you're focusing on. But yeah, basically what Brad's talking about here is kind of the same concept, but for AR versus VR.
Yeah, so you're not changing the focal point of digital objects, which is what you would get from a varifocal headset. You're only changing the focal point of your actual real world through the cameras itself. So this is not varifocal, unfortunately, because I still think that it will be very important as time goes on. But Abrash has had a history of promising things are soon, and I don't think any of those promises ended up working out. So
how impressive was it? I mean, you're one of the people who's got a big screen beyond. I mean, was it like, does it floor that kind of headset? I mean,
so it's still LCDs in that headset, even though it's mini LED, and it does have like a good color gamut, kind of similar to like Quest Pro, but way higher resolution, obviously. But if I calculated correctly, even though pixels per inch on display doesn't really translate perfectly into how clear the display will be when you put in a VR headset, I actually think the pixels per inch of like something like an Aero or a Pimax Crystal for the display is similar here to the display in the XR4, except it's just bigger, so they can pack more resolution because it's bigger. So I still think, even trying that headset, that LCD is a stopgap terrible technology for XR and immersion. And I would actually, as a daily consumer, still would prefer even my big screen beyond that has a lower resolution, but because that micro OLED is something else, man. I'm telling you, it's like a drug. Once you try it, you're just like, I don't want anything else. So
I mean consumers, I mean that Steam Deck OLED, it's OLED is just, I mean, when normal consumers see the differences,
it's not even, I mean, yeah, I think that's a good example. Like if you compare like direct visual LCD to even Steam Deck OLED or Steam Deck LCD, but even I think there's also just a difference because you look at PSVR 2, they use standard OLED, and if you look at like a big screen beyond, and like you don't get any of that Mura, you get like insane pixel fill ratios and everything. It really is just like, I will defend this technology as like the greatest thing for VR as much as I can, because once people can afford those headsets to have it, they'll be like, okay, I get why people hate LCDs so much, even the mini LED stuff, because it is truly a valuable technology. So
Well, there you go. Crazy. He just went. How much is his headset?
it's it's $4,000. So
Ooh,
technically
it?
more than the Apple Vision Pro.
But less than the XR3.
But that is another cool thing about Vario is they have been like every time they release a new series of XR or VR products is they've been like lowering the price pretty largely, and this time that you also don't have to pay for a hardware subscription to use it. I do imagine people who are like prosumer big simmers will actually be willing to pay that much for this
For
headset.
sure. For sure,
yeah.
the PC VR enthusiasts are going to buy this to play games on 100%.
What's the FOV?
Oh, the FOV was actually the best part of that headset, in my opinion, because
good for me for asking.
I'm glad you brought that up, because actually
you.
that's the one thing I've never liked about Vario headsets. Actually, even the Aero and the XR3, they're very similar FOV. They feel kind of letterbox, and they're very small.
I found that about G2. I thought it looked fantastic, but the FOV killed it for me personally. Sorry, Wes.
Yeah, no.
Sorry,
It was
Wes.
funny because when I was wearing the XR4, you know, they're constantly doing demos from person to person in person, right? They don't have time to check all the different parameters of your headset. And they had a simulation where they actually darken like a vignette of like the old like Aero and XR4 FOV, and then they would remove that digital vignette to be like, this is the FOV now. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then later in the demo, I was like, wait a minute, what's my eye relief set at? And it was like the farthest away. So when I pushed that all the way up, I asked them to do the whole demo again, basically,
Wow.
because I was like, this is way bigger than previous. So I would say the FOV is like very good, and all of that FOV is extremely high resolution. So I do think the simmer crowd, even though they're like complaining about some things related to like, oh, the pixels per degree is not high due to certain limitations, I think just the FOV and like the clarity you get all around that FOV is really valuable for those
that headset is cheaper than all the DLC for Train Sim World 3.
Oh, geez.
So these are the guys that are going to be buying it.
Yeah, it's true. Like, again, I do think I really hope they get like one of those like VR flight sim guy or something to try it, because again, you can't judge a headset based on spec sheets and all that small stuff they put on a website. You have to just have someone try it and explain it, because people are calling me out and being like, well, the pixels per degree is not as good as my Aero or whatever. I'm like, you haven't tried the actual experience. There's more there than just that number on the spec sheet. So yeah.
Well, I believe you. And I hope that helps, you know. But yeah, thank you ever so much for watching, guys. I definitely got to go now because my wife is wanting to go to bed because it's very late. But guys, thank you for joining me. Virtual Strangers, thank you. Between Reality Skeever, thank you. Sadie's Bradley, thank you. And Alex, Waifu Enjoyer, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's been a real pleasure. And I don't know if I'm hoping some of your team are watching that. Keep up the good work. Thank you ever so much for doing this. That I did mean the handshake. I was like, yeah, this is very impressive. And yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what it does. I really do believe it will not only sell more games, I think it will bring more people into virtual reality. And they'll be buying new headsets, and who knows where it takes us, you know, in the future.
And here's the beauty of that whole thing is people will actually come into VR and stay. That's what this is. This is the difference. The retention level of these games actually is there. And I think that's so exciting.
Exactly. And we opened this episode by saying, what's wrong with Job Simulator? That's what's wrong with Job Simulator.
Exactly.
I fucking love Job Sim.
It's the best.
Got my car.
Same haters.
I love Job. Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic week. So much is happening. Make sure you subscribe and follow all of these guys, and we will see you hopefully next Monday. Thank you. Bye 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 bye. Bye bye bye.